Hi, I'm Dave.
I'm Brent. This is State Talk. Hey guys, I wanted to. Dave and I were talking, and we were looking at ideas and kicking stuff around. And I talk about my kids a lot, but they give me a lot of great material. So I was telling Dave about this, and we thought we would talk about it a little bit. My daughter likes. I introduced her to the Lego Batman movie.
Great movie. I liked it personally.
My 5-year-old and my 3-year-old both actually enjoy it. And, it's got enough jokes that I don't actually mind watching it. So, but at the end of the movie,
Well,
spoiler,
how do you not like the movie?
spoiler alert, FYI, if you haven't seen it, you should go see it.
Spoilers ahead.
Spoilers ahead. But at the end of the movie, Joker and Batman are having come together to take care of something, but the whole dispute has been about their relationship. Because Joker wants to be his greatest enemy, and Batman will just not acknowledge that he is his greatest enemy and that he has any kind of relationship. And because Batman doesn't do relationships.
Not normally.
So they're getting to the end of the movie, and this whole fight has been going on, and Batman looks at Joker, and he says, I'm going to come right out and say it. Joker, I hate you. And Joker gets this look on his face like this is the kindest thing ever said to him by anybody. Like, he starts to tear up, and he looks at Batman, and he's like, I hate you more. And Batman's like, I hate you most. And my 5-year-old freaked because she's old enough to read the situation, and she can see that what they're saying is not what's happening.
Right. They're
Right?
being nice, Dad.
Yeah, they can tell this is very endearing, and they're smiling, and Joker's tearing up. And she looks at me because she knows hate is not a positive word. We tried to teach that to her, and she's like, "But Dad, hate that's a mean word. That's not nice. Why would they say that?" But they don't hate each other. And I had to explain. I was like, "Well, honey, sometimes adults say one thing, but they actually mean something else. It's implied, and that makes it really hard to understand." For some people, they don't hate each other, but they're not going to come out and say, I love you, right? Because they're guys and they're superheroes and supervillains. They don't say, but it really confused my 5-year-old. And I started thinking about it because I saw another sitcom, and I had to explain it to her in a sitcom we watched the other day too. And it was the same thing. One guy said something, and she's like, but he's their friend. Why would he say that? Well, he didn't really mean that, honey. And so we want to talk about the power of words and saying what you mean and meaning what you say. And some of the words we use don't always really communicate what we're saying.
Let me give you an example. Throw an example out there.
Yeah.
We love motorcycles. Oh, wait. Sorry, I just used it there, didn't I? We enjoy motorcycles. So, take me into a Harley shop, and I'll walk up to a Harley. I love this bike. It's so pretty. I love it so much. Do I actually, or do I just really like it? There's a difference. You can't really love an inanimate object. You can't. It's incapable of showing emotion back to you. You can highly enjoy it. You cannot love it.
No, you can.
I'm going to disagree with you.
You can take your like too far, because love doesn't have to be two ways. It doesn't have to be reciprocated.
Well,
no, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be reciprocated.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree on that one. It doesn't have to be reciprocated. Well, okay, I can understand that because I love this girl.
Because you can't actually take an attachment like that too far, where it consumes your whole life.
Okay, so in that case, in the Harley context, a Harley rider and Harley riders out there, I love y'all. You're all great.
Someone's
folks.
got to.
But he doesn't like Harley riders. That's okay. Anyway, but for those, I've been a Harley rider once who actually took his Harley Davidson. Every time he rode it, he polished it up every single time, and actually rode it into his garage, into a carpeted section of his garage, and put it into a big bubble that he actually zipped up, so it was hermetically sealed. And he would unseal it every time he got the bike out and rode it off and polished back in
I had
again.
a friend who actually had his Harley had its own carpeted bedroom in the garage, and he was the same way. He didn't have the hermetic bubble. That's even farther.
They sell it at Harley.
But yeah, he did the same thing. I mean, if he rode that thing, he polished it up and
mine are dirty for a reason.
And he had his own separate bedroom, and it was decorated with all his Harley stuff. And if it was raining, he would get water spots on it.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no. And he lived in Western Washington. There's the killer, right? How do you ride in Western Washington without riding in the rain?
Ride every other month
But yeah,
or something?
he might have had that relationship with his bike a little too far. It's possible.
But even then, we take this idea of loving our possessions ahead of loving somebody else. I get a kick out of it sometimes when we go to like a youth rally or a camp or whatever, and you see these instant pairings up. I love him, or I love her, I love like you just met 15 seconds ago. What the hey, man?
Oh my goodness! Any youth ministers, sound off in the comments below if you
Please.
played with this one.
And we're not
You get to a
making
youth
fun.
rally, and 2 hours later, you've got two teenagers who met 2 hours earlier who are now in love.
We laugh about it, but if you think about it, it's actually kind of funny.
They're going to be together
But
forever. Hey, I remember being that teenager. So
I was never that teenager. I wasn't raised in the church, so it's a little different for me.
yeah, I was guilty of that once or twice for sure.
So how did that work out for you?
Oh yeah. I have no idea what her name was.
Oh, all right, that worked.
I remember I did that. I don't remember who it was.
You remember?
I just remember my older brother laughing at me.
Was he right?
To laugh at me, probably.
Okay, good. Mike, that one was for you, buddy. But no, it's interesting the power of words that we had. Now, on the flip side of that coin is, especially as guys, hey man, you bald-headed weirdo, man, you smell like burnt motor oil and sassafras. I mean, we sit there and we give each other guff, and as guys, we're gonna do that. I get that.
Oh, girls do it really badly too.
Girls do it too.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's a point where you've taken it too far, and the person's like, you must hate me, kind of like the conversation with Abby.
Yeah.
Why are you saying these things? They're so mean. We're called to build each other up. We're called to use our words to build each other up, not tear each other down. And when we are ripping each other apart like that, that's where things like bullying come into effect.
Yeah.
Bullying is very prevalent
Well,
nowadays, even more so now than I think when we put up with it.
I'll give you even a better crazy example, right? So a lot of you guys who came to ACB know that I train with Dave on a regular basis, and there are some days that Dave does not want to say nice things to me when I'm pushing him a little hard in the gym,
Vice versa.
and that's fine.
Vice versa.
And as someone who I train a few other people, and I actually expect that.
I do appreciate you.
have the running joke with people I train that if you don't want to say some really nasty things about me by the end of the session, I didn't work hard enough with you.
Leave me alone,
So
Brent.
a couple years back, I actually was training two people at the same time, including my wife.
Okay.
And after about 6 months of handing up their training, I actually stopped training my wife.
What did Sarah do to you?
It wasn't. It was the same thing. I'm a mean trainer, guys. I will run you into the ground.
I haven't thrown up yet.
But
It's
yeah,
coming. It's coming.
it's happened with other people.
I know.
But I couldn't deal with the words anymore. And it wasn't. I didn't begrudge my wife for it, as far as being pretty nasty with me in the gym, because I was pushing her hard, just like I do anybody else. She didn't get treated any different than anyone else I train, which now explains a lot, right?
Mental note: when I get married, treat the wife differently. Got it.
But my wife would say some pretty nasty things every now and then when she was under the barbell.
Did you deserve it?
As much as I do when you say some pretty nasty things every now and then.
Nicer than that. Anyway, what?
And that's fine. Like I said, if you don't want to say some pretty nasty things to your trainer, they're probably not working that hard.
Well, yeah.
But it actually got to a point where, for our relationship, I couldn't train her anymore.
Right.
Because I can deal with my clients being frustrated with me and saying some pretty harsh things, because afterwards, most of the time, they're like you, and they're like, no, man, that was a good session. Thank you for pushing me. Sometimes I need a day or two to recover before they're ready to say that. But
I've had that before.
doing that 4 or 5 days a week with my wife, just the buildup of having her not like me for 2 hours a day,
Right.
I couldn't handle it anymore. And it wasn't, she didn't like go out of her way and say nasty things, but for 2 hours a day, I could feel that she wanted to hate me.
Right.
And she didn't ever really want to hate me, but I could just feel that. And it actually started to impact our marriage. Like I could not keep training her and stay married with her.
Right.
And
But
it
even-
was some of the things she said and some of the attitude.
But even then, even the marriage relationship, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But let's take it back a step for just a moment. Even in our friendships,
Right.
we push each other. We maybe not push each other sometimes. We give guff to each other. I had a friend of mine in high school, Chris. The guy was awesome. Whenever I was in trouble, he was right there. But sometimes the teasing was so bad.
Oh yeah.
He trained me. We were training together. He actually welded his own like a squat rack and all this, and we'd be doing bench press. And he would stand over me as he was spotting me. Come on, do it! And then he would call me about every dirty name in the book. And the idea was to get me to push the weight up.
Yeah, get you angry.
And that's what happened. And it was by the time I got done with the workout set, I'm like, okay, I don't like you. I'm
Yeah,
leaving.
I'm going
now.
to punch you now.
Yeah, exactly. But we see this happen every day where, man, I hate that person. Okay, do you really hate that person?
Yeah. No, I mean I'm agreeing. Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, because I've talked to some of the kids here.
Well, I mean, you even said that to me in passing at the end
So-
of the workout.
I don't
Like,
like. I hate you right now.
I hate
man.
you right now. Give
Right?
me a few minutes.
This minute, I don't like you.
And you did actually give me a few minutes, but right now I hate you. So give me a few minutes.
So the idea of hating somebody, like I've told some of the kids here, is hating somebody is to the point where that person, I could end that person could end their life right now, or they could be ended. Let's cut that part out. That person could be ended right this
I'm never
second.
going to remember to cut that out.
Huh?
I'm not going to remember to cut that out.
Hating somebody is the idea that that person could end right now, and I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care if they went to heaven or hell. It wouldn't matter. I hate them. That's a pretty strong word to say you hate somebody.
Right.
You can not.
Whereas loving that person means that you would sacrifice every single thing in your life, everything that means anything to you. That means that you would not, and it's easy to say I would die for somebody. A lot of people throw that around.
So a little harder when you come to practice. When it comes to
Right,
where we
but it's easy to say that.
Yeah.
But it's a romantic notion, so it's actually easier for people to say, "Oh no, I would give my life to that person." But that's easy.
Sure.
Give up your house, your clothes, your comfort,
Mm-hmm.
your health, your ability. Chop off a leg
Or whatever.
to save that person.
Right.
To say I love that person is that is love. That is I will sacrifice everything, my well-being, my possessions, my health, all of me
To have
for that person.
Yep. When we talks about loving your neighbor as yourself, I think that's the quintessential. That's the idea behind it. Is are you willing to sacrifice? And the words that we use a lot of time don't show that. They show that I have a disdain or a dislike or whatnot for that person across the street because whatever reason, pick a reason. There's millions of them. I coach my dad on this a lot. I hate that thing right now. I hate that person right now. Okay, do you really? Or is it something like you just don't like them at this possible moment? Go ahead.
I was going to say, let's take a trip back to a bygone era, right? How many times have you ever heard this, right? My word is my bond,
Oh, brother. I've heard that a lot.
right? Now, some of you guys who are a little bit older may remember that. Most of you teenagers, maybe you saw that in a movie.
It actually used to
old
mean
TV
something.
show.
It used to mean something.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is it used to be a reality.
Not so much anymore.
If I gave you my word, and for those of you who don't understand what that means, if you use the word I promise,
Or I vow, or I will.
that's what that means.
Right.
And used to, once upon a time, if you use those words, that was legally binding. That was as good as a contract.
That was
a verbal contract. And that held legality in court even at a time in our history. But
Don't try that
it was
out.
a time of also, that was something that people took great pride in, is that you were good to your word. What you said is what you meant. And if you said it, that was going to happen. To me, that's something I'm trying to teach my daughter, is that's very important. If I say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Because I think that's a very important value.
Well, look at from I can't even say it. Jesus' perspective. He said, I'm going to die. and be rose again on the third day. And that's what happened. He says, I'm going to be raised up to the glory of the Father, and that's what happened. He also says, I'm going to come again, and that will happen. What is it? A friend of mine, Reed Smith, the guy that baptized me, so Reed, if you're watching this, hello, said years ago was that God means what he says, period. And we're called to do the same thing. We're called to be people of our word. We're called to be people that say what we mean, what we think, what we feel. That doesn't mean you can't, be nice about it. You should be nice about it. But, we're not called to just tear each other down and rip each other off and be mean to each other and be lying to one another. We're called to be people of our word. We're called to use words that are binding. Like, I love you, man. I do.
You shake my hand?
You're a pain in the butt, but I love you.
No, I'm a huge pain. That's
Yeah,
okay.
but we're called to be that people. Like you're talking about being a man of your word or a woman of your word. Nowadays, you see contracts get broken all the time, and they go to court, and it's like whatever. Words don't have the meaning they used to.
Have you heard of a group called Promise Keepers?
Uh-huh.
I don't necessarily endorse the organization, but I had a family member who was part of them, and that was the basis of the concept. Part of their foundational concept was, being a person of your word, saying what you mean, meaning what you say, choosing carefully what words you use, and being good on it. And like I said, I don't endorse the whole thing of the organization, but I liked that about them, and I liked what it did for the person in my family who was involved with them.
Right.
It helped him, but
I think that we need to stop, take a moment when we're in those arguments, when we're in those discussions, when we're talking to somebody at school, when we're in the lunch line, when we're sitting with people at school, or at our work, is choose carefully our words. Stop and think about what you're going to say before you say it. That has been my Achilles heel since probably I was born. Was it come out here and didn't register up here? But are the words that you're using, are they building somebody else up in the name of Christ, or are they tearing somebody else down in the name of the world? Is your word your bond? Do you mean what you say?
well, and think about, the words have power.
Oh, yeah.
Think about what you're throwing out there. I mean, the Bible's very clear about the tongue being, like a sword.
Well, look at John 1. In the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God,
Right.
and the Word came and dwelt among men.
But I mean, the Bible's
paraphrasing.
very, very clear about the tongue being a thing that is horrible sometimes. There's lots of verses about having a loose tongue and letting loose your tongue, because words are damaging, right? Ask anybody who's ever felt bullied. Ask anybody who's ever felt picked upon. You may not think your word had a whole lot to do. And guys, I was really bad about this. I always thought the whole bullying thing was a bunch of crap, and I didn't realize some things that I said hurt a lot of people, and it does. The things that come out, the careless words that come out, you don't think about the words you're using at the time. You're in the moment, and you're just throwing stuff out there. You may not mean the word you used, but the word's out there now.
Well,
The damage is done.
That's one thing I was just thinking about. It's about being bullied, and I could go into bullying stories, till the cows go home. But for me, one story that sticks out in my mind of words having power, the guy using the wrong words. I think he actually meant it, but was I was in 5th grade. We had recess every day, which that still sounds weird to me. But
I want to have recess.
huh?
I want to have recess.
We
every
said,
day.
well, we do, because we'll get on the motorcycles and ride. But every day, this guy and this group of his friends would come in and they'd find me, and they would get me into a corner, and they would proceed to beat me up just about every day. Or if they didn't beat me up, they'd say words like, oh, you're fat, or you're ugly, or whatever. And on the rare occasion where an adult would actually find us, would actually find what was going on, the kids would go, oh, we're just having fun with it. And it was suddenly, it's okay, no problem.
Didn't feel like fun for you, huh?
Not so much. But words have power. This guy was able to get out of getting in trouble for picking on me and beating me up because he said, oh, we're just having fun. And you flash forward to, 10 years down the road, and or not even that long, more like 5 years down the road in 10th grade, and you're starting to people, oh, you're this, you're that, you're blah blah blah, you're ugly, you're stupid, and you know, you start to feel that maybe I am all those things people are saying, because I've been hearing this stuff for so long,
Yeah.
and it starts getting in the back of your mind that I am this, I am that, etc. Because words have power. They simply do.
I know adults who it still haunts them.
Oh yeah.
Stuff that was said to them, they were treated badly, and people spoke badly to them and said things. And I know adults that I've worked with for years and who have spent time in counseling, who, I mean, to this day as adults, they still feel stupid, or they feel inferior, or they feel ugly, or unwanted because people told them horrible things. And as Christians, we're called to something better than that.
Oh yeah.
We are called to be better than that, as far as we are called to be accountable for what we say.
We're called to build each other up.
Yeah, we're called to be accountable to how we talk to people and how we interact with people, and using words carelessly. And it can be good and bad, guys. Here's one that will, and we better wrap up pretty quick, but here's one that I guarantee people aren't even thinking about in this conversation so far.
Oh.
So we referenced earlier, you know, all those times where you meet that boy or girl at the youth rally, and you're like, oh, I love him.
I didn't have this problem growing up, mind you.
Ladies and gentlemen, take care with those words,
Yeah.
because someone might believe you. And later in your life, when you look back at your life and you are not with that person, think about what you did to their life. Think about the impact of your words, because they believed that you loved them, and then you just dumped them for another person, or you just left, or you did something really rotten like cheat on them or dump them for another boy or another girl. They believed that you cared about them the way you said. And that will stay with them the rest of their lives. They will always go, well, I thought they loved me, but obviously I'm not worth very much if they could say they love me and do this. We think of love as a positive thing, and love is supposed to be a positive thing, but when you throw it around loosely, when you don't actually mean it, and don't even get me started on the amount of guys who use that word. Women do it too, but not near as much. Guys are so guilty so often of using the L word to have physical relationships with a girl.
Yeah. I've seen that before.
And guys, you can never take that back. That will be with you the rest of your life. For the rest of your life, you will think about how you affected that person.
And the rest of her life, too.
Trust me. I told you, we're 100% clear with you guys. I was that guy. I made a lot of bad choices. And I'm getting closer to 40, not quite there, but I'm getting closer to 40, guys. And there are times where I still sit down and kick myself and think about all the girls I said I love you to. And all the girls I use words to manipulate to try and get something out of them from. It never goes away, guys. I'm 40, I'm married, have kids, and it still haunts me to this day.
You're almost 40, right?
Almost 40.
Wait, how old are you now?
37, almost 38.
Okay, so you're still in a couple of years.
So now
His
you're-
birthday's coming up next month, that's why I had to ask.
I'm going to have to cut all that out now.
Yeah, you are.
But making my editing harder.
I am.
But, guys, it's years later. It's still there. It's still a factor in my head. I still think about those girls and how badly I upset their life because I used words I didn't mean. It's real. Your words are important. And as a Christian, you're accountable for it.
Let us know what you think.
This has been a really heavy topic, guys. I'm sorry to hit on such a heavy note. But you know
Being
what?
real.
In real faith talk, if we're really talking about faith, not all of it's easy.
No. No. If it is, everybody would be doing
So,
it.
This has been Brent and Dave with another Faith Talk. Thanks for joining us.